Happy Thursday. Happy Thursday. We're over the hump. We got the whole crew here. It is the Bet Online Salute to Troy podcast. It's Colorado week. The number 8 Trojans travel to Boulder to play a 9 a.m. game. We'll go around the horn. We'll introduce this person is excited for this week. This is the only person that's so excited to see a blowout. The queen of LAFB, the world-class athlete, Candace Davis-Price. How are you doing this Thursday? How are you doing? How's the weather?
The weather is very fallish. It's still like 70-ish, and then it drops to the 50s, which would make all of you very uncomfortable. But I did fill a tire gas tank for $42. So
that one hurts.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Do you drive a Tahoe also, or what do you drive?
You guys can have all the sunshine. I will take care of the cheap gas for you.
It was 58 this morning when I got in the car. I was like, oh, man,
so you're getting not good weather and expensive gas.
Yep, definitely.
And traffic. Moving on. We'll keep it football.
And we have the man with 1,000 degrees, the rocket scientist himself, Jamal, the Madman Maggie. How are you doing this Thursday, Jamal?
Doing well, Coach. Great to see you. Great to see everyone. Excited to jump into it.
And then we have the mythical being itself. You could call him a Centurion. They say he doesn't exist, but he does exist. It's the living legend, Ryan Dyrud. How are you doing, Ryan?
What's that? What's the great movie Role Models? A Minotaur? I'll be a Minotaur.
A Minotaur. There you go. There you go. I'm happy everything's good. Like I said earlier, the number 6 Trojans, because coaches know what they're talking about a little bit more. They dropped to number 6 in the coaches poll. The number 6 Trojans travel to Boulder to play a 9 a.m. game to play Colorado. This, in my opinion, might be the most overhyped game that we've seen in a very, very long time. There are some things that the Trojans have to fix. Like we established earlier in the week, they do have a travel problem. Not only do they have a travel problem, now they have to play at 9 a.m., 8 o'clock Pacific Standard Time. So that would be another obstacle to occur. We do have a big crowd. Snoop is going. LeBron and Bronny James will be there. A lot of people will be there to see this game. Let's just start out with the hype of the game. Yeah. Oh, I did mess that. The LAFB cast will be there. Unfortunately, I will not be there. But the Madman, Ryan Dyrud, and Candace will be there. We'll have something for you guys hopefully this weekend. The LAFB cast will be there. So this is a big week. It's exciting. Let's just start off with the hype around this game. I'm going to go to Ryan first. We'll save the best for last. I'm going to go to Ryan first. What is your opinion about the hype of this game?
So the worst first. All right, I'll take that. That's fine. No, I mean it's fun. I mean, I'm excited. You know, I think you are correct in the sense that it's overhyped in terms of maybe the football equality on the field in terms of just kind of what we should see play out. Now, based on last week, we'll see if it plays out that way. But I think just all the storylines in this game, celebrities you said, the fact that Colorado football is fun to watch again. Obviously, USC has been building something great. You know, this article came out by The Athletic just today, kind of comparing the Pete Carroll USC days to now the Deion Colorado days in terms of kind of celebrityism. So it's overhyped probably in terms of football, but I think it's going to be a fun atmosphere, a fun game. And it's kind of the first big Pac-12 game we get for USC that is getting a lot of national attention, even though it is an early kickoff. So at least that's good for SC fans, is that we're in the national stage finally in our 5th game.
It's funny because people compared it, the Source Awards, to the Grammys. I've heard that comparison a lot too. Jamal, what do you think about the hype around this game?
Yeah, Coach, I agree. I think it's really fun. I think it's great for the sport and the opportunity for, I'm just very happy for a school like Colorado that's just such a wonderful institution, such a great location, and they've had some really difficult moments over the years, one winning season since 2006. And so the fact that they finally get some shine, I think is great for the sport. Deion is such an electric, iconic personality. And when you put the celebrities all together, you mentioned it, LeBron, Bronny, Will Ferrell, Snoop Dogg, Jay-Z, Lil Wayne, they're all going to be there. And that's just so great for the sport. And then you've got storylines on the field too. This is it's been 29 years since Dion and Jerry Rice went at it when it was Cowboys Niners, and in a very iconic way when those were kind of the two mega teams in the NFL and in NFC Championship games, and now their sons potentially going to match up against each other at the same positions at wide receiver and cornerback. So I think there's just so many wonderful storylines all across the board. I think we'll see if Shedeur Sanders, with the quality of prospect he is, compared to obviously the barometer, the benchmark that is Caleb Williams. So I think it's going to be really fun across the board, and it's going to start feeling a little bit like one of those games in the Pete days, or also one of those games in the Chip Kelly Oregon days. I remember when the big three of the Miami Heat used to go to those Oregon games in Eugene when Oregon was kind of revolutionizing college football. So I think it's just a great event for the sport.
And last but not least, Candace.
What do I think?
She got her hair down. She got her hair done for this game. Just to let y'all know. What do you?
I checked the forecast. There's no humidity, so I'll be non-athlete looking. The hype. I don't think there's any hype. I think it's an actual football game. I think that if Deion Sanders and crew are not in Colorado, then we're not even talking about this football game, right? We're also talking about a team that's 3-1. We're not talking about some Rudy Poot from some podunk in the middle of some like a Nebraska Cornhuskers. We're talking about an actual university who has had, prestigious athletics at one time and are on the rise. This is not hype. This is that real deal. And you're also going to see, like you said, we got the benchmark. Caleb, your boy is on the same list. Shedeur. There's going to be conversation. So you're right. Everything you feel, Al, can be shut down, or it could be very interesting. So the fact that you got A-list celebrities flying to Boulder, it's a conversation. It's not a hype. It's the real deal.
I mean, we could say it's the real deal, but they also got 42 dropped on them last week. But that's neither here nor there. Let's get into the football aspect about it. Let's go to Ryan, the Stone Brewery, Fight on Pell practice report. So how was practice on Tuesday?
Good. We'll keep it. I can keep it brief, but no bulletin board material. Lincoln Riley, smart man, just playing it very professional, and all the respect in the world for Coach Prime and his staff. And said he loves that he's true to himself, and people can see when someone's fake, and so he can appreciate how he's doing it his way, and it's different. And a lot of people are, whether they're against it or for it, he respects it. So. Classic Coach Riley, not playing into any of the storylines or bulletin board, just being very to the point and respectful. One thing I will say that, he was asked about, and we talked about in the last show, the linebacking room, and how, no Rayshon didn't play. Shane Lee didn't play. Mason Cobb, obviously coming off of injury, had some rust, it looked like, and, maybe it's coach speak or not, but Coach Riley said, all 5 backers are good enough to play. They're all going to be utilized throughout the season. They felt at that game, they really wanted to get Mason a lot of playing time and reps. And Mason Cobb was also in the media scrum. And so he just said, look, it's 4 weeks, essentially. He didn't play because he played, the first half against San Jose State and then missed the next 3 games plus a bye week. So, I think he didn't say it word for word. I'm paraphrasing, but I think he himself was like, yeah, there was some rust there that had to get off. And even in terms of like the team's tackling issues, like they definitely, I know we brought that up, and it was good to hear that they tackled in practice. I mean, this was not some soft practices. They hit bodies. They were padded up and tackling and trying to get that mentality back. So, I thought it was, good report there, and we'll see obviously if it pays dividends on the field on Saturday. But it seemed like they had a good week of practice.
Any injuries we need to worry about?
No injuries. No, not that anything was, not that anything popped up. So everyone looks healthy going forward. Gentry still good to go. Obviously he played against Arizona State, but nothing banged up there. Cobb fully healthy. So yeah, everyone should be, good to go for this one in Boulder.
That was good to hear. That was your Stone Brewery practice report, brought to you by Stone Brewery. Go to your local retailer store, get your Fight on Pell today. Let's talk about football. So we got the Trojans going into travel. And I'll say it again, they have a travel problem. They have an early game, right? But I saw a report today from Joe Klatt, I believe, and I could be wrong, and they were comparing Caleb Williams to Shedeur Sanders, right? They're talking how he's good here, good there. It's a whole article that have film and everything. I want to ask you guys this question. What is Caleb Caleb Williams plays 4 quarters, right? Caleb Williams plays 4 quarters. USC does what they're supposed to do, and they walk out of there, right? Does that keep Shedeur Sanders on the Heisman list? And what does that do for Caleb? I'll rephrase it. What does that do for Caleb as far as the Heisman watch? Because he's on a national stage during early in the morning, right? That'll be 11 a.m. Eastern time, right? So Caleb Williams goes and handles business. What does that do for Caleb Williams as far as his Heisman race? Let's put it there. And the follow-up question is, does that keep Shedeur Sanders on the Heisman Trophy watch? I will start with you, Ryan. Go ahead.
I mean, Caleb should always be 1A or 1B as of now on this list, regardless. I think Michael Penix Jr. is my kind of 1A or 1B. I think Shedeur obviously has looked great so far outside of this Oregon game, and that was a big bruise on his resume so far. I mean, 159 yards, sacked 8 times. Still had a pretty good completion percentage, only 1 touchdown. Going against a big front, Oregon had 24 pressures and, like I mentioned, 8 sacks. So really in his face, and when he faced a defense of that caliber, wasn't able to totally respond. And Caleb, I think, has proven over his time that he's responded better in those situations. But I think just looking at this game specifically, if Caleb plays all 4 quarters, which I think he will, if he puts up big numbers and SC wins big, then he goes back to the top. And if Shedeur, to answer kind of your second part, if he plays well and competitive and keeps Colorado in this game, I think he kind of stays in the watch list too. So I don't think either guy can really hurt their stock a ton. The one that would hurt it the most would probably be Caleb if he has a really poor game and Colorado goes and upsets USC. Obviously, that would hurt him much more than vice versa. But I think overall they'll both just kind of stay pat with kind of in terms of Heisman race.
Candace, what do you think?
I know Caleb is going to play all 4 quarters because they're going to want to make a statement. Colorado is a good football team. They're a great football team. I think that Shedeur was never going to win the Heisman. So the fact that there's conversation that he's on a watch list, that's an accomplishment as himself. Heisman Trophy winner is coming back for a second Pete or 2-peat, whatever you want to call it. His expectations are a little different than Shedeur. So I agree with Ryan. Do I think it hurts either stock? No, but I think it'll be fun and interesting and engaging for us as fans to see 2 potential Heisman Trophy candidates play against each other. But I do think he goes 4 quarters. And Shedeur, just a round of applause for being included. I mean, the guy was at a HBCU. And I don't know stats, Ryan and Jamal, but I don't know how many Heisman Trophy winners have come from HBCU, right? So that is what his groundwork is, not coming off of winning a Heisman Trophy. So.
Jamal?
Yeah, I agree with Candace. I think that it's important to understand that the Heisman isn't always about the best player in the country. The Heisman is a narrative media award more than anything else as well. And so you have to understand where each of these players is taking off from. And Caleb is on a team that is trying to win a national championship, a top 5 team. He's the reigning Heisman winner. So he's going to be scrutinized more because his point of departure was higher. And so there's going to be more scrutiny on Caleb. Shedeur, his candidacy sort of reminds you when Manziel won it with a lesser Texas A&M team, or when Lamar Jackson won it when a lesser Louisville team. So there's a little bit more margin for error with Shedeur. Now, having said that, I think if Shedeur plays a really great game and Colorado is competitive for 2.5, 3 quarters, I don't think there's anything that he would do to hurt his chances. And I think if Caleb Williams does his normal Caleb Williams self of 350 to 400 yards and 4 to 5 touchdowns, which is what he does, then it's going to be absolutely fine for Caleb. I think the only way this game sort of moves the barometer is if USC just walks into Boulder and detonates on Colorado, wins by 45, 50 points, and Caleb has 6 or 7 touchdowns. And then he sort of radically, the national media is going to shift. Or vice versa, SC goes in there and lays an egg as a 21.5 point favorite, and then his Heisman candidacy is really going to get hurt. But short of one of those 2 extreme outcomes, I think they're both going to walk away right around where they are, where Caleb's kind of in a fight here right at the very top, and Shedeur is going to be right there in that top 5 range for the trophy with an opportunity to do more later in the season.
I got you. So my opinion of it is I don't think Shedeur should even be on the list. He's the 6th best quarterback. He's the 6th best quarterback in the conference, right? If you go through all the quarterbacks in the conference, he's the 6th best quarterback in the conference, right? Realistically speaking, you got Caleb Williams, Michael Penix Jr., Bo Nix. Was my man? We were just talking about him, Jamal. My man from
Cam
Washington
Rising?
State. No, my man from Washington
Cam
State.
Ward?
Cam Ward. Cam Rising, if he's healthy, right? A healthy Cam Rising. If Cam Rising's playing, he's also better than Shedeur. And then you have Shedeur Sanders, right? The top passer in the NCAA, Michael Penix Jr. Number 3 passer in the NCAA, Cam Ward. The number 6 passer in the NCAA is Caleb Williams. Like, you get what I'm saying? Like,
yeah, no, Fred, I mean, I hear you, but I think that right now, when you look at body of work and when you look at kind of accomplishments last year, I think that right now Caleb and Penix Jr. are a cut above. I don't know about Bo Nix. I'll be very honest with you. They've got a great team down there in Oregon, and you can use that flip argument. If you put Shedeur Sanders on Oregon and you put Bo Nix on Colorado, what's going to happen? I don't know. I think Oregon's still going to be Oregon. I can't say necessarily the same definitively about Colorado. And as well as Cam Ward has played, and he's been absolutely phenomenal, and he deserves more attention considering how Washington State, what they're sort of going through. But Washington State has yet to play in Oregon the way Colorado did. They've yet to play at USC. They've yet to play the very, very top of that conference. So he's still sort of protected from a stat standpoint and a record standpoint. And Cam Rising, we may never see Cam Rising to the same level again. I mean, he tore his knee for the 2nd consecutive year in the Rose Bowl. He's yet to play. He's not going to play tomorrow. So to say that he's the 6th best, I think Caleb and Penix Jr. right now are a cut above. But I think after that, number 3 is sort of wide open. And why can't it be Shedeur? I'm not saying it is right now. I'm not saying it isn't. But I don't know if it's necessarily fair to him to just put him at 6th.
I mean, in reality, so you're telling me that Shedeur is better than Cam Ward. Realistically speaking, so hold on.
You're just a Colorado hater.
I'm not a hater. I'm just being a realist.
Deion Sanders DNA, right? So out the womb, we're talking about Deion Sanders. Deion Sanders as your dad, Deion Sanders as your coach, Deion Sanders as your collegiate coach. He's a whole nother breed. He deserves that. So, yes. And as Jamal said, the narrative is not, there's no definition of Heisman has to be throwing. It is media. It is hype. It is what the people love to see. That's it.
All right. So then if it's based off of DNA, then Michael Jordan's kids should have been on the Naismith watch list, right? Prince Fielder should have been an automatic Hall of Famer. Right, we could go through King Griffey's kids. No, we're talking DNA. We're talking DNA. You can't say
DNA, but in addition to you, Michael Jordan, absolutely incredible, but didn't make his JV football team. You're talking about someone like Deion Sanders, who talks about from birth the life just being about survival, right? So different narrative. I mean, that's not football, but don't be.
Fred, let me ask you a question. Here. Why is the Colorado attention bothering you so much?
Because realistically, they're not going to make a bowl game. Like when you realistically look at their schedule, they're not going to make a bowl game. They may win against Arizona State. They'll beat Stanford. They'll lose to UCLA. They'll lose to Oregon State. They'll lose to Arizona if Delores back, right? They'll lose to Washington State, and they'll lose to Utah. That'll make them a 5-win team. My problem with it is you have somebody who's doing the exact same thing in Syracuse, and nobody's talking about him, right? He turned Syracuse around. Syracuse undefeated.
Absolutely. It's Syracuse. If it's not Carmelo Anthony and a Sandusky sex scandal, no one absolutely cares.
That's Penn State. That's Penn State. That's Penn State.
Is it Penn State?
Sandusky's Penn State.
My bad. They lying.
So we're hyping up a 5-win team. We're hyping up a team that's going to win 5 games. They're not even going to be playing past the first week of December. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like it's not a realistic. I feel like it's a waste of media effort, and it's not realistic. And on top of that, there's a bunch of kids that are getting looked over just because Deion's at Colorado, right? You get what I'm saying?
I think it's fair, and I think it's a really legitimate point. But then my question to you would be, how is that different from 2012 when USC was, Matt Barkley came back and everybody said it's unfinished business, and Kiffin was on SportsCenter and every radio show, and they were being hyped up, and they were preseason number 1, and they finished 7-6, the worst number 1 preseason to ever finish. How is that different from 2016 when JT Daniels in his first year, and there was so much hype around SC, and JT Daniels was going to be the future of this program, and they went 5-7? How was that different than 2017 when SC came crawling out of the cage against Alabama and saying, we want that smoke, we want it, we're SC, and then lost 52-6? So how is that okay? But this is not okay, right? There's a little bit of a double standard. So we can't, but that also sort of feeds the narrative of SC's SC and we're entitled to all of this stuff. So we can't say that and then have a problem with Colorado getting shine too, because it's the same thing, right?
It's not. It's exactly the same thing. It's the exact same thing. I just want to let you guys know, if you're done, thank you for listening, tuning in to the Mighty 1090. If you want to continue watching, go ahead and listen to us on the podcast, and we'll continue on the podcast. Thank you. So to continue this conversation, right? All right. So, and we could get into football, right? And this will lead into the football aspect of it. There is a way for Colorado to win this game, right? Colorado is very opportunistic. And if you look at their games that they won, all their games that they took advantage of the opportunities that they were given. And I'm not going to knock them for that. That's very good. And that's their key to winning football games, right? They played against just Sims out in Nebraska, who couldn't even handle a snap. Colorado State, who had 19 penalties. TCU, who just came out flat and just turning the ball over and not playing very good football, right? They took advantage of the opportunity. USC opens up the game like they did against Arizona State. This is going to be a different outcome and a different outlook of this game. So if Colorado takes advantage of their opportunities, then they can come out on top of this game. But the fact that just because it's Deion, and then all of a sudden they play a team and they drop 42 on them, and then Deion gets in the press conference like, why is everybody against me? I don't play. Right? The whole narrative changed, right? The first 3 games is like, we coming, I'm here, this and that, all this and all that. And then all of a sudden you get mollywalked and the narrative changed.
I don't think it changes, though. Like Jamal's touched on, the media has created the propaganda and the tone of Deion. So Deion was a player in 2 major league sports, right? So when he's saying he's not playing, he always emphasizes in his locker room, that's not, besides the 2 in there, my name's not on the jersey. So saying he's not playing, what he means is when half of coaches decide that their team is out there making spectacular moves, like the Oregon coach, and he wants to come for Deion in the locker room, like that's what he's referring to.
Hold on. So then that becomes an issue too, because what I say in my locker room is what I say in my locker room. I'm allowed to say that in the locker room. Nobody, wait, hold on. This is where it changes. Nobody's talking about what Shiloh was doing before the game, because that made social media also. Shiloh's talking about how he's going to beat everybody up and fight everybody, and he was going to smack them and this and that, and he got ran over. But when Shiloh did that, it was okay. But when Dan Lanning is talking to his team in his locker room, and where media access is granted, and all of a sudden it leaks.
The only reason he did that is because there was media access. The only reason he felt confident to have those words against Deion is because they had the worst game they've ever had with this attention. So the reality is, the Oregon coach would not be talking that. And like you perfectly.
How do you know that? How do you know that?
Put him in Deion's locker room. He's not running up nothing.
How do you know that? How do you know what he said prior to any of these games? How do you know what Dan Lanning has said prior?
I don't know what he said before that. I'm talking about right now.
But you said that the only reason why he said it was because the camera was in there. But the camera's always in there.
He's trying to be Deion Sanders in that moment. He says we're not in Hollywood, we're on the grass. He's addressing the gentleman that sold over 1.2 million glasses on a Friday. This is not
that's a pregame speech. There's been pregame speeches as Coach Carroll has told us that completely is about around the same thing. It's a pregame speech. The camera's in there and it's against Deion and it becomes an issue. That's my problem I have with this whole thing. So Shiloh Sanders,
Colorado locker room, he's not running up nothing. He's not talking none of that smack. He's real confident with thermal heat, the thermal heat cleats and the 37,000 different uniform changes and the Phil Knight bajillions of dollars of donations. Take him and put him in. What was the Colorado's record last year, Jamal?
They were 1-11.
Put him in that 1-11 locker room. Don't take Deion Sanders to Oregon. Don't take him to Oregon because it's going to be a problem. Don't give him the resources don't give him $100 million. He's making a fraction of the money with half of the talent that your boy Riley and your boy up in Oregon has.
He didn't have to take the job. He chose to take that job. They came to him and offered him the job, and he said yes. He could have said no. He could have said no.
Do not give Deion Sanders, Caleb Williams, and Zachariah Branch and your whole boys. It's a whole different conversation.
How's it? He has
Fred, I think I think I think it's an interesting point that you're both bringing up. It's one of those things where coaches are going to use the media for opportunistic reasons, and so I don't think Deion should be pointed out or singled out for that. Obviously, I think Dan Lanning played to the camera. You don't always have the camera in the locker room. He kind of played up. He in reports where he sort of invited the media in to sort of be able to have the stage to do that. We've seen Lincoln Riley with his hour-and-a-half exclusive talking about how difficult it was leaving Oklahoma and kind of unburdening himself. We've seen Lane Kiffin be sort of a master of using the media and using social media. We see Nick Saban kind of looking at reporters in the eyes while he's getting, talked to at halftime or pregame and kind of going nuts sometimes. So Dabo kind of loves the media as well and has for the last several years. So all coaches use the media when it's most advantageous to them. I think it is interesting why Deion is getting so much hate right now, because he's been a breath of fresh air for the sport. He is very flamboyant. He's very sort of in your face in terms of that particular taste and brand of aura and charisma. But, it's no different than really any other coach. And I think it's picking at something maybe a little bit deeper in our society about why Deion is kind of getting additional attention. And I'll leave it at that.
I just want to know, do you know who Dino Babers is?
Yes.
Dino Babers is a pretty good coach, right? But he's wise. So if he does the same thing, if Dino Babers starts to do the same thing and starts to get kids to come to his school, is it okay for Dino Babers to do it?
I think it's okay for anyone to do it. I mean, frankly, I think that's the issue here. I don't think it matters if it's Deion or if it's Lincoln Riley or if it's Nick Saban or if it's Kirby Smart. They all have the right to do it. They all have the access to the media. And I think it's just a wonderful story, Fred, to be honest with you. I think it's not just a story about Deion, but it's a story about the athletic director. It's a story about the president of the university, the chancellor of the university. The athletic director went to the chancellor of Colorado and said, the contract is for $28 million. We don't have $28 million, but believe in me, I promise you, if we hire him, we'll get the boosters, we'll get the sponsors, and the money will come. And the chancellor okayed it. And in higher education, they're so conservative. The fact that they were even willing to do that is an incredible story. So it's sort of, and that's why the AD and Deion had such a huge hug at the end of that TCU game, because it was sort of galvanizing that, their plan worked. So I think it's Deion. I think it's Deion's ability to get a guy like Travis Hunter. Travis Hunter is not going to go to Syracuse. Travis Hunter is going to Colorado because of Deion Sanders. Otherwise Travis Hunter would be going to Alabama or Georgia or USC or Michigan. The fact that he's able to get such 86 transfers, the fact he's able to get 5-star guys, they have the third most 5-star guys in the Pac-12. A team that went 1-11 last year is the third most 5-star guys in the Pac-12. It's unheard of. It's because of Deion. So you have to sort of give credit where credit is due.
But what credit are we giving him?
Well, wait.
For tripling the win total from last year in 4 games.
And
so let me ask you this question. Kansas 2 years ago, Why is it not a big deal that Kansas tripled their win total?
Let me say this. Deion Sanders is not reinventing himself. Deion Sanders will always be prime time. The person you see, the persona, the iconic image, that's not Deion the coach. That's who Deion has always been. And when I say I grew up watching Deion, I grew up watching my dad watching Deion, right? Everything I remember watching is, things that any of us are YouTube and Googling. So I don't want to make it seem like I grew up watching him, but I'm very, very, very well educated on his accomplishments. He is not reinventing who he is. This is who he is as a father, as a coach, as a mentor. And you're right. He came to a school, $29 million. He could very well be taking hundreds of millions of dollars. So the whole hype, to me, when I'm not saying it's a hype, Deion is coming in with strategy. He's able to pull players with less resources, with less funding, with less of everything, and it's still making magic happen. Also, when USC wins this game and they come across the field, when Caleb Williams gets a hug from Deion Sanders and says, well, congrats. How Caleb Williams is going to feel to have said a Hall of Famer and a guy I played against respects me as a player, respects me as so there's so much more to Deion Sanders that other coaches don't possess.
The point that you're making is a very valid one. That is Deion maybe getting too much credit and other coaches aren't getting enough shine for doing the same thing? I think that's right. I think you're right. But it's also the same reason why I think USC gets more media coverage than maybe other teams. So it's both ways. I think USC gets more media coverage than they should, considering their performance the last 15 years. And I think Deion's getting a little bit more media coverage than he should, considering how other folks have also turned things around. But it's also about what I think we as the public and as consumers we want, because at the end of the day, this is entertainment. And so it's not just about winning or turning around a program. It's about doing it with style. And so when USC wins with style. And when Deion wins with style. It's one of the reasons why someone like a Tim Duncan is not really gets the flowers that he should as one of an all-time great in the NBA, because he won, but he didn't win with style, and it's why certain quarterbacks in the NFL, they win, Phillip Rivers and Matt Ryan and all of these guys, but they didn't do it with any style. So they don't get the love from the media as much as they should. So I think that's really what you're getting to, Coach, and I agree with you.
Plus, with Colorado being so great, if this is a normal Colorado
They're
team,
not great. They're not great. Don't say Colorado. Don't put great in Colorado in the same sentence.
They're going to be on Big at noon, which is a huge deal. And all I'm saying is, like you said, every show, no one's staying up till 10:30 to watch USC. So all they're doing is getting the stats or whatever. They will get to actually see USC play. I am more excited about that than you know. I am so tired of this number 2 team with your boy JJ McCarthy, who was on the thing and got 3 picks against Bowling Green. That's a whole nother conversation. It will shut down Ann Arbor, and they will be knowing, like, okay, SC is on the schedule next year. We should probably start paying attention to it.
Well, they should
start just to poke in here, I was surprised by this, but last week USC was the 4th highest watched game at the 10:30 Eastern time slot. They were the 4th most watched game. So people still watching.
Ryan,
SC.
who was one? Was it Colorado?
One was Colorado, Oregon.
Yeah, there you go. There's the point. You failed to mention that one.
Well, I mean,
I wasn't hiding that. I was just saying no one's watching SC, and I was like, oh, they were actually the 4th most watched.
Let me get into this. Let me get into this before we continue. BetOnline is continue to be your number 1 source for online gaming. You go anywhere, get up to line wagers, stats, and all your parlays in. You can go to betonline.ag to get a free welcome bonus if you put in promo code BELIEVE. That's BLEAV. That's betonline.ag. All right. Enough. Let's go to football, right? Let's go to football. So, Trojans, and we spoke about this, and then I'll lead it off. Trojans have a travel problem. Trojans play at 8 o'clock in the morning on their body clocks. They have a game under their belt out of the bye, right? They have to. Now, Jamal, I know you're gonna get mad at me, but more than anything, this is one of the biggest statement games that they have, right? And the reason why it's not because they're playing Colorado, not because they're playing against Deion, not anything like that. They damn near laid an egg last week. They were in a game with a team with a 80% quarterback that they had a 42-point spread against, and they looked very average. This is the game where they need to legit come out, because the week before, the school that's right on their heels dropped 42 with ease, right? They have to come out and drop 42 with ease the exact same way. Or don't be surprised after Saturday, even if they win, same score, 42-28, they start falling in the rankings, because now it's like, can they handle a Oregon? Can they handle a Washington? Can we really put this team in the college football playoffs? And can they keep up with schools that are competing to win a national championship, right? And on standards, they look average. Let's just be realistic. They look better than the teams that they're playing, but compared to the elite, the top tiered schools, they look average. Do you want to see an average school in the college football playoff and they get dropped 42 put on them? Not at all. So this, Jamal, I think, is a legit statement game this week, because they have to show that they are an elite football team. That's why I say statement, Jamal. So I'm going to go to you, and then I'll pass it around to Ryan and Candace next. So what do you think about that?
No, Coach, I agree with you. Absolutely. I think that this is an opportunity here for a lot of the reasons that you laid out. And I think USC needs to be on upset alert going into Saturday morning for a lot of the reasons that you laid out. I mean, let's sort of list them out kind of definitively. One is the time. You know, their body clocks are not used to these morning starts. SC has primarily been kind of a 5 p.m., 7:30 p.m., at most 12:30 p.m. type of team. They're going in now firmly in the a.m. How does their routine get impacted the night before, 2 nights before, 5 nights before to lead up to this game? And is their circadian rhythm going to be ready to go? So you sort of have to watch for that. Second is the place, the venue. You're dealing with altitude. You're not necessarily always ready in that environment. It's the Mile High City, of course, and Boulder is a beautiful place. Altitude's a challenge. And then when you look at, Fred, you alluded to this, USC's last 7 road games, only 4-3 away from the Coliseum. And even those 4 wins, nail-biter against Oregon State, nail-biter against UCLA, 2-point game against Arizona before they pulled it out, and then last week's game against Arizona State. They have not really put together a definitive game away from the Coliseum since last year's Stanford game. So place is an issue. Third, I think, is overall just sort of attitude, right? Are they going to be able to sort of reset, refocus, and give Colorado the requisite respect? The way they didn't really show Arizona State much respect last week. Was it the look-ahead game? Were they just sloppy? Were they just disengaged? What is their attitude level going to be and their level of professionalism going to be going into this week? Because they're still, at the end of the day, a 21.5-point favorite. It's not 34.5, but it's still a sizable favorite. And then finally, schematically with the defense. And are they going to be ready to go? Shedeur is a very mobile quarterback. He's a guy who gets rid of the ball quickly. Obviously, Colorado has offensive line challenges, but that also can be a blessing and a curse, because if USC brings more pressure, then they're very susceptible to one-on-one matchups on the back end. We are not quite sure what this secondary looks like. There could be a couple jump balls, and anything could happen there. And then fifth, if SC, to your point, if they're sloppy at all with the ball, if there's a Zachariah Branch fumble on a kickoff return, or Caleb's a little bit loose with the ball. Remember, he threw that one ball that was right to the Arizona State guy. It hit him in the shoulder pads and he dropped it. What if that happens again and the Colorado guy catches it this time? 1 or 2 possessions kind of go the other way. Crowd gets involved. Anything can happen. But I think, having said all of that, I think it's going to be a very competitive game for 2 to 3 quarters, and then SC will do their thing and pull away.
What about you, Ryan?
Yeah, I'll just give 5 other points because I agree with those. Kind of 5 keys to kind of winning this game, and I think it starts with pressure up front. I mean, you look at the blueprint of how Oregon beat Colorado, as they were in Shedeur's face all game long. And if there's a weakness of this Colorado team, it's the offensive line. I think we've seen that in Colorado State got after Shedeur Sanders. All these teams, Nebraska got after Shedeur. So if you can get pressure, and USC was able to get 24 pressures and 8 sacks last week against Arizona State. Granted, a lot of those kind of came in the fourth quarter late, but if they can get that early, I think that's one huge key to slowing down this offense. Number 2, Marshawn Lloyd, phenomenal last week. You got to keep giving him the rock. Just let him run the football. I think they can definitely expose the CU defense, and that's just going to open things up for my 5th point later on. So give Marshawn Lloyd 15 plus carries and let him do his thing. Brendan Rice, he wouldn't say it is a factor, but human nature, when you play your former team, you're always going to have a little more juice. He played at Colorado for 2 years before transferring to USC. Obviously, it's a different coaching regime now, but it's going to be a little more juiced up going back to Boulder for the first time. So why not piggyback on that great performance Brendan Rice had down in the desert? 2 touchdowns, 122 yards or something like that, 7 receptions. I think he's kind of taking the torch a little bit as that wide receiver run. That's just my opinion, but just based on what we've seen the progression go these first 4 games, he's kind of getting a little bit more shine and obviously exploded last week in key moments when they needed him most. So I want to see him build upon that. Number 4 is Kalen Bullock. Jamal mentioned the secondary, and we saw Kalen Bullock with that great high jump interception last week. His best asset is when he's able to kind of patrol the back end of that defense, really watch the quarterback's eyes and jump to the point of attack when they have a kind of a throw up ball down the seams. So if he's able to kind of be that watchman, if you will, on the back end and pick apart Shedeur as that pressure is getting to him up front from point 1, then that secondary is going to have a good game as well. And finally, and this is an obvious one, let Caleb just be Caleb. I mean, as long as Caleb Williams is Caleb Williams and does Caleb Williams things, this is a damn hard football team to beat. And regardless of what your defense is doing, regardless of what other guys are doing, if Caleb's being Caleb, then you're going to have a pretty good chance of pulling out a win and probably pulling out a double-digit win. So as long as Caleb's Caleb, they'll be good. So those are my 5 recipe points for victory.
Candace, what about you?
Well, those were like the top 10, so I'm just going to keep it real basic.
I'm 15.
No. I want to see USC exert their dominance. I want to see them rise in the polls. I want to see Caleb get off and not be wavering through this Heisman. I want to see them win. I want to see them score. With what happened up in Oregon, Oregon's looking like, oh, they're a big deal. And again, the entire nation got to see that. They were all excited. I want the world to know that USC is the top in the Pac-12, and they should be ranked higher. And again, I want Caleb to get off and go crazy on this type of excitement, this hype, as you're saying. So I'm not worried. I know I'm not worried. I'm an athlete. I don't like to put things out in the universe. I want them to play fast, fun, electric football.
I only want to see one thing, and if they do this one thing, then it'll be a smooth game, and we don't have anything to worry about. Just a clean game, a clean, complete game. We have yet to see a clean, complete game from USC, right? Even against Stanford, there was some defensive flaws, right? I guess Nevada, Reno, but that was, that's when Jamal got mad at me because I said it was a statement game.
FYI, Fred, Nevada's now at 14 straight losses. Just FYI.
So. I just, right. So, just a clean, complete game, right? This is one of those, like, it's time to start building to play in the college football playoff, right? You got all the kinks out. You're about to go through a grind. Like we were talking about before the show, Jamal, the last 3 weeks of the season is going to be rough. And if you're going to, you need to be ready for it. They got to play, Washington, Oregon, and then UCLA. We know they play UCLA last, but I don't remember the Washington, Oregon order. But they're like, those 3 schools are back-to-back. So this is the first time I want to see a clean, complete game out of the Trojans. And if they do that, they're on the plane by 1, back in California by 1 our time, maybe 2 our time, they get to relax. So that's one thing I do want. I just want to see them play clean and complete and get that out of the way. Here's the thing they have to be worried for. And like I told you earlier, Colorado is very, very opportunistic. And that's one thing I do love about them. You give them an opportunity, they're gonna take full advantage of it, right? So if they decide to start putting the ball on the ground, fumbling inside their red zone, throwing picks, being very sloppy, right? And like you said, Zachariah Branch fumbles a kickoff return, or if Caleb Williams doesn't give a good handoff, or he gets too pretty and tries to throw a ball that hits the defender right in his hand, that can end up being a pick 6. That can end up turning into 7 points. Colorado is very, very opportunistic. And so that is my biggest worry. That's why I say they need to play a clean game. So this is what I want to ask. Ryan, what are you worried about as far as USC playing Colorado this weekend?
I think just big plays, explosive plays on defense. So giving up explosive plays, way too many missed tackles last week against Arizona State. That obviously can't continue, but the Achilles heel all last year was that those explosive plays. And we saw it again against Arizona State on that 4th and 7 with multiple missed tackles that goes to a touchdown and all of a sudden makes it a 1-possession game yet again before they go down and score again. So yeah, that'll be my biggest kind of concern is just explosive plays.
Jamal?
Yeah, I think related to that, Fred, is the missed tackling. And I think that if they can come out and really sort of emphasize tackling and limiting every play to what that play's potential is and not more, I think that's going to be really a key. Because if they the concerning kind of narrative arc here is if they come out missing some tackles, Colorado scores, they stay in the game, they get confident. It's a little bit of a dogfight at the start of the third quarter, middle of the third quarter. SC wants to flip the switch, and then for whatever reason, the lights don't come on. Like sometimes when you flip that switch, the Lakers used to be like this with Shaq and Kobe. They'd flip on the switch anytime, but sometimes the lights don't come on. Sometimes you got to call the electrician. And so if you keep this team in the game on the road and you say, we'll just flip the switch on, the lights don't come on, then all of a sudden it becomes a dogfight. So if they can come out and tackle effectively, build an early lead, and really take the confidence out of Colorado, because that's really what Oregon was able to do so well. I mean, boom, it was 14-0, 28-0. Colorado just lost their confidence over the course of that game. So if they can do that with sound tackling and sound situational football, then they'll be fine.
Candace?
I was worried about Travis Hunter, and he doesn't seem to be playing. So that was the biggest worry that I had. He is dynamic. He is elite. He is unpredictable. And that was something I was definitely concerned for offense and defense. And he says he's not taking no for an answer, but I don't think Prime's going to let him come out there. So I'm not worried. USC is going to get in there and handle business. That's what we do.
That's what we do. No need to worry. Trojans do Trojan things.
It's going to be fun. It's going to be entertaining. And like, I know we said people have been watching, but they're not watching USC like you're right, like I am, till 2:30 in the morning. The whole nation is going to be watching USC, and I will be wearing every single USC sweatshirt, T-shirt, sock I have all week after this win, walking through Ann Arbor.
If you want to save on your grocery bill, you can drink AG1. Go to drinkag1.com/salute your Troy, and you'll get a free 1-year supply of immunity and 5 free travel packs. That's drinkag1.com/salute your Troy. All right, guys. So let's just do it, right? I'm gonna start with Candace first. I'm just curious. Let's go with score predictions. I have a theory, so I'm going to test my theory out because last year I did this and it was the other way, and then last week I did this and it turned the other way. So let's go score predictions. What do you think the score is going to be, Candace?
I want to go last now. That makes me a little nervous. I don't know. Don't put that pressure on me. Put boss man on the spot. Go ahead, Ryan. He's been quiet all night. Let him go.
All right, Ryan.
I always have to go first. No, but I'll go. I think 52. I just think this offense. I mean, I didn't say much when you guys were talking, Dion, but I do think he's building something special. But I think the defense is still, a ways away, and so I think his offense will have their way. But I think CU will have some moments, but I just think, as we kind of said, USC will pull away. I think 52-20 is the final.
Madman.
Yeah, I think it's going to be, SC is going to be able to do what they want offensively. I think it'll be close, though, for a half. I think we'll be kind of in a 35-24-ish, beginning of the third quarter type of score. And then ultimately, SC will pull away. I like SC to win 49-31.
Dang. Wow. Candace?
I had 35-7. I think that
Candace watching too much Michigan. 35-7, Candace. You're watching too much Michigan football.
That's true.
I will tell you this. Barry Alexander is going to be on every defensive line watch list after this game. I think he'll have 3 sacks by himself. The reason for that is because the front just can't block anybody at Colorado. So there will be a lot of sacks. Like last week, Oregon got 7. I think it'll be close to that sack-wise. But the fact of the time and the altitude, I don't think there'll be a lot of points scored. With that being said, I think the score of the game will be about 35-10, 21-10.
Wow, 21-10.
Yep,
21-10. I'll tell you what, Fred. 21-10.
The 10's going to come late. The 10's going to come late, like in third
35-10 or 21-10. What's your final?
I'll go 21-10, and the 10 will come late. It'll be 21-0 for a long time.
Fred, I'll tell you, 21-10. Caleb's going to go down in the Heisman. Okay, if it's 21-10, that's not going to be enough to sort of keep him at the top.
I have a theory,
wow,
Jamal.
That's a surprise.
Jamal, I have a theory. You remember last year, the UCLA show? I said it's going to be a weird day.
Yes, sir. I do remember.
That's my theory
but then
it.
I mean, it ended up being 48-45, Fred. It was a shootout at the end.
You were quite wrong that day.
I was quite wrong that day. And then last week I said it's going to be about 70-3, and I was wrong about that. So I say 21-10 for a reason.
Oh, he's open the inverse.
It'll be 63-63.
There you go.
3.
This is like Austin Powers days with Dr. Evil, you know?
So I say 21-10 for a reason.
Fred is playing blackjack like Austin Powers plays blackjack. You know, when he holds with a 2 and a 3, you remember that? I'm sticking because I too like to live dangerously. Fred is sticking with 21-10 because he likes to live dangerously.
No, the reality.
I do appreciate what you're saying, because there are, and Jamal, you touched on it a little bit, just like there are different factors. It's not just when people see, oh, it's playing football, X and O. I know for a fact, traveling through time zones, trying to get your body adjusted, even when you try and, dictate the tempo at practice, or even, I mean, Pete's won late night practices and put the sound, and those things are nice to help you think that you're prepared, but you used a big fancy MIT word about your body. Synchronized.
Oh, circadian rhythm.
There you go, circadian rhythm. That is tough to try and press fast forward on in 22 to 24 to 72 hours. So those factors, and you're right, playing at altitude, if you've ever ran and competed, like you said, it could take a while to catch a little bit of a rhythm. So those are factors that will impact the athletes for sure.
I will tell you this: when I was coaching in New Mexico, and we'll end it on this. When I was coaching in New Mexico, we were at 7,000 feet. We were higher than Denver. It took 2 weeks to acclimate to that altitude. If I was Lincoln Riley, we would have been on a plane midday Wednesday, and we would have been landing. We would have been there since Wednesday. Like, we have the money to do it. We would have been there since Wednesday, at least to try to adjust to the time zone, and we would have had early. I would have been there Wednesday. That's one of those things you just have to do. It's imperative. But neither said nor done. I don't coach. I'm just some guy. I'm just some jag on a podcast. So,
aren't we all?
Yeah,
aren't we all?
You guys got anything else for the fans before we get out of here? We ran long today, but we knew this one was going to go long. If you run into our LAFB people, say hello. It'll be fun to see. Hopefully we get some pregame show going and we could talk about this before, but guys, it's been fun. Can't wait until Saturday. Actually, I can't wait until tomorrow. That game tomorrow is going to be good. It's like it's a prelude. We get a prelude to what we're going to see this weekend. So can't wait for tomorrow. Like I said, it's been fun. Thank you guys for joining. Without you guys, we have nothing. Thanks to all the fans and everything. See you guys next time. See you guys for Victory Sunday. Live free, fight on.
Take this show on the road.